New today from one of my favorite publishing slash design houses, and that's Three Crowns Games out of Sweden. We got two new games released by them, I believe, in the last month. The first being the Third Battle of Gaza, 1917, Allenby's Gamble. This is part of their World War I series. Three Crowns has been around for quite a long time in terms of maybe not necessarily as a company, but as a design group, although I think they've been around as a company for a long time as well. They've had some of their games published by Revolution here in the US. This would be things like Königsberg and Across the Narva, which I've done a video for the channel. These games, I don't know so much about this one, but I do know this one, all use sort of the chip pull system as seen in things like Traces of War, Traces of Hubris, Victory Lost, Victory Denied, their Revolution stuff. They're all kind of built on the same core engine, and I really, really, really like the system. It's very great for solo play. Typically, the Three Crowns games are actually the most interesting. They add a lot of interesting chrome that isn't too onerous or difficult on top of the system. And they usually cover conflicts or parts of conflicts that are really interesting. So with Allenby's Gamble here, we're talking about Palestine, late World War I in the Middle East. And that's quite interesting. So let's open up this bag. They all come in Ziplocs like this from Three Crowns Games and shipped from Sweden. So let's take a look at this, and then we'll get into Stalin's Last Chance, which is a completely different climatological zone, which is the Soviet attack on Finland through Karelia Ladoga during the Winter War of 1939 and 1940. Okay, so we have a cover sheet here for the game. All the games, the cover sheet on the back side is going to have a player aid. And what I really like about this system is that these player aids are quite comprehensive in terms of what they cover. You've got your terrain effects chart, complete with tiny illustrations, combat results table, which is a classic D6 odds-based system. Although I do find that the combat results table in these games are really well engineered to not be super static. We've got some special rules here. It looks like spaces no longer being VPs during the course of the game, depending on what turn you're on. Railway construction, barrage rolls, that's pretty typical in most of the games. Here we see some examples of combat units, the sequence of play, and then one of my favorite aspects of this system is the random events table. The random events table is based on a D6 roll, and it varies by turn. So the likelihood of specific events happening on a specific turn, and you can see there's a bunch of them here, can vary from game to game. And it gives you a lot of replayability and variability. I really like that. So this is the cover sheet. We get an individual bag here of out of supply and isolated markers. That's interesting. We get the Collision of Empires rule book. So this is going to be probably, looks like it's a full color rule book, 2-column. This is really going to be very similar. Yeah, it's the layout and the font, the layout and typeface styling here is going to be very similar to other games in the system that you may have played, at least from Three Crowns. So here we see all the movement stuff and the stacking. The one part about the rule books from Three Crowns Games is that they don't usually post them online. So getting a digital copy so you can easily try and reference specific rules is typically difficult. And there are, in each of the games I played from them, while it is short, like this rule book is only 12 and a half pages before you get to the designer notes, really 12 and a column. Here, it's not complex. This is a very playable system. I really, really like it, like I said. However, a lot of the times there are special rules that are only mentioned one time in the rule book, and then you might remember it in your head while you're playing, and then trying to find it becomes really difficult. There's no index or anything, so with no digital version, you can't control F, to find what you're looking for. It's the only complaint I have. Otherwise, the rules are usually very good. Here we've got the scenarios. It looks like victory points. Might only be one scenario here. Here is the turn-specific events. And this is the random events. So yeah, not a very big rule book, done on nice A4 paper, what have you. Here is the counter sheet, as we would expect from the Palestine front of World War I. Not a lot of units. And in fact, most of these are, well, not most of them, but all of these are chits, the chits that you pull out of the cup. And as you can see, these counters just fall right out. I love the counters that Three Crowns Games uses. You don't need to round these. They just come out straight from the sprue. Not very many units. Looks like the units here are going to be brigades, at least on the British side, regiments, and some battalions as well on the Central Powers side. Looks like Ottomans. So we got some desert action, some victory point markers, one half counter sheet for the game. and try and do this without messing anything up. We have got a second player aid card, which is the rear cover of the game. And then we have got the map, which I will open. The game has a 4-panel map, so not a full-size map, and it is mostly the color of sand, as you would expect. We do have some terrain here. Looks like some hilltops, Hill 410. We have small villages here, some supply sources, it looks like. Here we have Gaza. Here's the Mediterranean, obviously. And a place to put your chits after you draw them. Here we've got the turn track. This is a 10-turn game. Looks like it takes place over 10 days. And with some special rules, reminders, and what turns specific spaces look like do no longer count for victory points. We got some reinforcement locations, perhaps, it looks like there. Here's Beersheba. That's going to be obviously familiar to those of you who know about the World War I Ottoman front. And yeah, pretty simple map here, and I'm very keen to get this played. I actually might solo this one for the channel before too long. The paper on the map, by the way, is a bit thin compared to what you're used to, but you know, this game it's a Ziploc game, so the counters are really nice. I think the rules typically are bulletproof, and it's about a subject we don't get a lot of games on, so I'm very happy to have this one. Let's take a look at the other game. Here we have Stalin's Lost Chance, the Soviet attack on Finland through Karelia Ladoga. This same designer, Stefan Ekstrom, as Allenby's Gamble, but he is joined here by Magnus Nordlof, who is credited for the series design on the World War I titles, but Stefan Ekstrom is the series design on the World War II titles. Jan Larsen, the developer on both. And of course, Paul Shackleton helped with this one. Paul Shackleton, by the way, is a designer in this system for 3 Crowns as well. I think he's working on a lot of North Africa stuff right now for them. So anyways, let's get into this. Again, you're going to see a very similar layout here to the player aid. Obviously, we're going to have a much more winter-themed map. You can see the combat table is a little bit different, I believe. Tank overruns in this one. We didn't have that in the desert in World War I. And again, we've got the turn-specific random events. It looks like maybe less here than the other one. Air units are going to be a big deal here. Again, we have a rule book. Very similar layout. I think probably the same number of pages. Maybe a little longer. There's actually some examples with images in this one, so it's a little bit longer. How to win. Scenario setup begins on page 16. So a couple of pages more. But we are in World War II. Some designer's notes, some sources, bibliography, and then the events explanation, which is cool. And then kind of an index on the back. More of a, I guess you'd say it's a table of contents, maybe an index, table of contents hybrid there. Stalin's Lost Chance. So here we have, it looks like 2 half counter sheets. So we're going to get 1 full counter sheet. Here we've got the Finns. And this is battalions, battalion scale units. I was just trying to see if there were any ski units, but we've got some cavalry, some infantry, got some air, looks like some motorized infantry. The Russians are coming. Yes, they very much are. We've got Mahdi's and some Russian aircraft, and then here we have got the Russians. These are going to be regiments. And of course, the Finns put up a crazy defense of their homeland during this conflict. As you see, the counter is just straight coming out of the sprue, so I'm going to, it's going to be impossible to get those back in there. So I'm just going to pull that out. So here's the second player aid. Let's open the map. So this one is a full-size map, and as you can see, the snowy north. We've got boxes for casualties, the aircraft, your chits. Each turn in this game, rather than a day, is a week, and it is a 14-turn game. So we're going from November 30th, 1939 to March 12th, 1940. Here's your aircraft refit table, casualties for the Soviets, current events. So it looks like there's some global events that happen over the course of the game. Similar art style. The system shares a lot of the same artists, especially now that 3 Crowns is publishing their own stuff. They typically have the same fonts. As you can see, the trackless Finnish forests. Here's Tolvajärvi. So if you own the game Red Winter by GMT, that whole game takes place in, I believe, sort of in these 9 hexes, if I am not mistaken. I'd have to go look at that map again, but I'm pretty sure the village of Tolvajärvi was on the western side of that map, and the Russians came through up this highway out across this isthmus, and they, you can go across the island and whatnot. So yeah, so that's pretty cool to see that on here. So we're talking about a zoomed out view of this invasion. This looks like maybe the border, possibly. Looks like some special hexes there. We've got Sortavala here. Got Lake Ladoga down here. And the Russians basically are going to be coming up this direction. The Finns are going to be trying to hold over in here. I believe the Mannerheim line, it's probably not on this map, but that was sort of their fallback position. And I love the history behind this, not because it's particularly pleasant, but just the Finnish bravery in defending against the Soviet invasion in this war, and the victory that they achieved, or at least the armistice that they achieved for a little while, was really, really impressive given the disparate size of the forces and the capabilities. So really excited to play this as well. This one I want to play head-to-head. I think this system really shines. It's shines solo as well, but this particular game I want to play head-to-head because I find the back and forth of these larger games really a lot of fun at the table. So yeah, so this is Stalin's Last Chance, which is interesting. I'd be curious to know why they named it that, because as we know from history, the Winter War was not the last chance. The continuation war, actually, the Soviets invaded again in the later stages of World War II. And there we go. That's what you get with these games from Three Crowns Games. One of my favorite war game systems. Chip pull, very fun to play, very smooth. You have a lot of variability in them, and I hope you enjoyed the look at these. These are out now. They've just come out.